Hello friends, so today I'm going to do the next handbook for higher consciousness 12 pathways. So we did one and this will be number 2. And if you want to check out that book, it's a playlist in my channel, so you just go to playlists and it'll be there. It's an audiobook. Turned out pretty good. I used AI to record it using a voice that simulates mine, but it turned out pretty good. There's a few mistakes, but anyway, it is such a good book. I don't know how I haven't found it and read it, but if you haven't seen it and you're on the path to higher consciousness, I would definitely recommend it. So these 12 pathways are just basically, you could call them like mantras that help you throughout your day to realize the things that are taking your consciousness down with our ego minds, the things that we focus on, the things that we get lost in, the things that are normal to us because we've done them our whole life. This brings awareness to those things if you have self-truth. So number 2 is, I am discovering how my consciousness dominating addictions create my illusory version of the changing world of people and situations around me. So that's a mouthful, and this one takes, for me at least, it takes a lot of self-honesty, because you're like, okay, first of all, what's an addiction? Because we just know addictions to be things like alcoholism, drugs, prescription drugs, things like that. And of course those are addictions. But in the book, if you've read the book, you understand this, but we actually have these addictions. We have addiction for external validation, a lot of times through social media. We have an addiction of being understood or being heard. I'm basically listing all of mine because I'm being vulnerable with you guys. We have addictions of being in control. We have addictions of whatever, avoiding fear. There's just so many, and that's what this whole book is about, is to get us to realize that when we view the world, we're viewing it through lens after lens after lens after lens of programming and conditioning. So what you actually see are all these things that you think are good and that you think are threats, but they're not accurate at all. This is actually a good time to tell a brief story. I had a Satori about 2 weeks ago, and I went into this state called Turiya. And this has never happened to me before, not even like using psychedelics or anything. But I went into this state of complete presence, like for about 4 hours. I was reading I Am That, and I just, all of a sudden something clicked, and I just went into this state of like, everything I looked at, there was no story behind it. So if I were looking at this notebook, like I would just stare at it, and it didn't matter. I wasn't trying to recognize patterns or anything. It was just like the pixels of the notebook were just like the most raw, real thing. I guess this did happen once earlier in my life, but it only lasted for a second. And it's a state called Turiya, if you guys want to look it up. And the reason I bring that story in, like I walked around and I was just like staring at walls and things. I mean, people must have thought it was crazy, but I had no thoughts at all in my head, like zero. And what I saw, it was like being a child and seeing it for the very first time. It was the most beautiful thing ever. My mind came in a little bit, and it's like, oh, but you got to move because these people are staring at you. And at first I was in a restaurant, so I had to get up and leave. But then I went home, and I remember I popped into the shower, and I was just like, everything I did was just like so slow motion. It was really cool. And the reason I bring that story up now is because that illustrates like the rawness of truth in perception, which we don't have anymore because our programs are layered in front. So you may see the best opportunity in your life. Here's a great example, like, and I'll pick on women for a minute. I'm sure guys are the same way, but women have relationships, they get jaded, and then they meet a guy that could actually be really awesome, but because of what they have in their past, they block it, right? So we could have the best opportunities come into our life and think that they're a threat. We could have the biggest threats come into our life and think that they're an opportunity. And it's all because of the programming. And the easiest way to think of it is like you're looking through these lenses. Each lens is a different program. So everybody sees everything differently. That's why people like different people and like different situations, because it's all running through our conditioning that has started since we were a child. And that's what awakening and higher consciousness is seeing that stuff and getting rid of it. And it's peace, man. Like, you don't want this. Trust me. It's a distorted view of life. And as soon as you start to get rid of it, you start to feel this beautiful energy within yourself. So This is work worth doing, and if you're on my channel, you probably know that already, but you got to do the work. It's not just enough to like hear the videos, oh, I know about that. So many people know about things, but they just don't ever do anything. It's called a dilettante. When you go like an inch deep and a mile wide. It gets you nowhere. How do I know this? Because I did this, all right? Like, you become like this knowledge master. Like, one of the games in the book that people play that talks about is the knowledge game. Like, I played the knowledge game because I was insecure about myself, so I went out and I learned all these different things so I could talk about all these different things. But to know something and to actually understand and experience something is two totally different things. So you actually have to do the work, guys. You can't just, I mean, you don't have to, but if you don't do it, don't complain, as I always say. So let me read this again, now that I give you a little background. So, I am discovering how my consciousness dominating addictions create my illusory version of the changing world of people and situations around me. So what that is about is noticing your addictions, which the book helps you do that, and see what you're seeing that's false. Like, you're overlaying things onto people. You're overlaying things onto situations. Like, you got bit by a dog when you were a kid. Now every dog is evil. You got some guy that looks a certain way cheated on you, and now all the guys that hang out or do that same sport or do that same hobby, they're all assholes. Whatever. I mean, we got to be aware of this, right? Because what we're doing is we're hurting ourselves. We're blinding ourselves. Because as we go through life, we see the world as like this threatening place, when in reality, nothing changed. Another great example one of my mentors talked about is when you were a child and you would pull up alongside a cop on a motorcycle, and you were like, this is like for boys, like you were like 6 years old, you're like, oh my gosh, Mom, I want to be a cop, that's the coolest thing. You could stare at that cop on his motorcycle for like 10 minutes, just be like in awe, your jaw dropped. And that's what it was like when I was in that state of Toria. You were just like, you don't have any conditioning, you're just like, this is beautiful. But what happens 30 years later? You're 36 years old and the cop pulls up beside you and you're like, fuck, I hope, was my plates current? Was I speeding? And you go into this whole anxiety trip. What changed? The cop didn't change, you changed, right? You put these blinders on yourself, and we all do it. So at some point you got to remove them. You got to be able to see the world for what it is, and it's just freedom. It's not like, oh, you're bad, why did you do this? Like, everybody's doing this. And this is part of awakening, this is part of raising your consciousness, and this is the only solution that works. We have to fix ourselves before we can fix other people, right? So I'll read it one more time, and I think we covered it pretty well. I am discovering how my consciousness dominating addictions create my illusory version of the changing world of people and situations around me. So I challenge you today to look at the things in your world with a fresh perspective and try to find 3 things today that you might be overlaying your experiences on. And you might not know, your analysis might be wrong. That person might not be a bad person. That person that you think's great might not be what you need right now. That opportunity might not be what you think it is. That thing you're afraid to do might be exactly what you need to do. By the way, lean into fear. That's always a good idea. So that's it for today. That was the 12 pathways from the book Handbook to Higher Consciousness. You can find that in the playlist on my channel here. And I hope you guys have a great day. See you on the next one.